Welcome back to Low Bal Spark Podcasts, a podcast centering around ADHD and all mental health. Honestly, this episode, I wanted to be interviewed. I wanted to be interviewed by someone that knew what they were doing. So enjoy the questions, comments, concerns about who I am and how I started this. This is going to be a great episode. And don't forget to hit the subs. No, I'm not doing that. Nope, nope. Follow if you want, whatever. Love you.
My good buddy Lobau, who is the quintessential example of what it means to do nothing but focus on the people. And so I want to start off with just having you talk a little bit about your background and why you got into podcasting and what your experience was going into podcasting.
I would love to. Thanks for having me again.
Great to have you.
I know. This is so fun. By the way, we're friends. But how we became friends was online through my podcast, which is, as you know, Low Bal Spark, and it was started as a way to help people with ADHD feel confident in themselves. And my upbringing was a little bit, I had the best one ever. I had a great upbringing. And I shouldn't say a little bit great, it was amazing. And my wife's best friend ended up taking her own life due to mental health, and I started a podcast, just starting with ADHD. And it's become relatively successful, I think, but the whole premise of it was I'm only going to join social media to find people that I actually care about and that feel wanted and needed in this world. Because I think a lot of times with mental health, it can be a whole lot worse if you don't have people around you that support you. So started that up, and step by step, it's turned into a thing. And now a lot of us have met in real life, and the sky's the limit at this point, I think, for it, because you got to start somewhere. And
got to start somewhere. And that's beautifully said, because so to give you a little context on how we met, it was literally him on Twitter. I had started discovering that I was ADHD and figuring out what all that meant, and I was sharing a bit about that on Twitter. And I was having a very hard time, talking to people and really connecting with them. And suddenly I get a DM, "Hey, saw you said something about ADHD. Do you want to be on a podcast?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, I do actually. And I would love to share this story because this whole journey of self-discovery has really helped me start changing my life." And so it's amazing how impactful that was. And this is someone who, your experience with social media was non-existent.
Abysmal is what he means to say.
Well, I'm, at that point, I'm studying Twitter, and I'm trying to figure out how to be successful on Twitter and understanding the dynamics of social media and how to interact. And he's just like, "Do you want to be on a podcast?" And so,
Literally.
yeah. And so that whole thing. And so maybe talk a little bit about your experience with podcasting before you started podcasting. Did you do anything with recordings, or what was your background kind of leading into going into the podcast?
Got it. That's a great question, actually, because I had no background in podcasting whatsoever. I do work in sports, so the closest thing to that would be an announcers, but I'm not an announcer. I work with announcers, but I'm, so I hear them, I see them, all that, but it's not anything that I really even thought twice about. But I know that I can talk to people. I know that. I know that if I enter a room, I can talk to anyone at any time without any hesitation. And my ability to do that online is what made the real life that I've had with a lot of friends become a reality for people online. And I took what I knew how to do, which was make a lot of close friendships, and then turn that into people that thought they could never make a lot of friends. So I flipped the roles a little bit. I have no technological experience, but I figured it out just enough for me to be just enough. I'm never going to be this person that knows how to program or really read social media and all that kind of stuff. I don't care about that, but I needed a little bit of knowledge of it to just do it. So I just threw myself into the fire a little bit and just said, all right, ADHD in your profile. Do you want to be on a podcast? Do you want to be on a podcast? Do you want to be on a podcast? Now, keep in mind, this is a year after I started just talking alone about ADHD first. So it starts with building your own confidence before you can have the confidence to throw yourself in the fire and just do it.
Ah, yes. That's something else that this trip has actually been really beneficial for helping me see the power of showcasing the ability to just do stuff like that. And it kind of started when I decided to just book this trip. And next thing I knew, it wasn't just me. We've got people flying over the ocean to come hang out with us, and people come from other spots. And then you end up meeting really just phenomenal people throughout the course of it, and you start getting to see that impact. But I love to kind of shift a little bit. So you start the podcast, and it starts kind of picking up a little momentum, and then you kind of had the idea to actually turn it into more of a community. So let's talk about that transition and starting to bring people in there.
Absolutely. Sorry for the plane, by the way. We are outside at a lake, but
not our plane yet.
Yet, yeah. Logos on the side. No,
coming soon.
But yeah, so my strategy is the same thing in every aspect. My job, my life, with my marriage, with everything is unless you start by yourself, talking to yourself about what you want to do and pumping your own self up to do it, it's very difficult to reach out just blank and say, do you want to be on a podcast? For example, this trip that you were saying, the reason that those people flew from other states and then across the ocean is because I asked a question. Would you like to fly over? A lot of people struggle with that whole, I don't want to ask this person to do this. It costs money, all this. But if you just ask, the worst thing that happens is they can't make it. The best thing that happens is we have 4 people that have been on the show before, all getting together and talking about struggles and great things and all these things in real life. But it starts with you first. It has to. And if you can do that, you gain that confidence, then you can reach out to other people that can help you get even better.
Quick shameless plug here. You should check out my upcoming course on quantum economics for creators. The first module is all about understanding what you value internally. And it's for that reason exactly. You have to understand where you're coming from in order to know how to get to where you need to go. And so that community started actually as an online community where we tried to bring people together for just to have the space to be themselves. And that's been going on now for 2 years
year?
about? It's over a year. It's over a year. It's definitely over a year.
Yeah.
I think we're definitely coming up on 2 years pretty soon.
Right. And the concept of it really is that, okay, so you've talked one-on-one. Remember, it starts just you. I talked to myself about my strategy for a year. In year 2, you start talking one-on-one to people. When you get confident in talking one-on-one, then you decide, okay, well, how do we expand this? Why don't we just send a group email to everyone that's been on the show, and they are free to join a group meeting that is not even a podcast, non-recorded or whatever, and shoot the shit. Why don't we do that? If you get 10% of those people, then we have what we had this past week. And that will, year 4, who knows how many will be here? So that's how it goes. But again, the start is what I want to focus on here. Is my strategy is speed, passion, attitude, reliability, knowledge, in that order. Spark, of course. And speed, I started extremely fast when I did this, but I knew I only could start fast if it was just me, and I didn't have any other opinions or anyone kind of bringing me down. But I wanted to start fast, so I did what I thought was right and explained my strategy in the first year. When that sort of started to catch on, then I could invite one-on-ones. Then it turns into a group. Groups turn into teams, and you start the whole process back over again.
And teams are really interesting here because they give you the ability to get access to skills and knowledge that you don't have yourself. And so when you're coming in without the technical background, but with just the ability to do the talking to people and making those real connections, having people in the group who have different knowledge and abilities, all of a sudden they start coming together to help each other. And we've seen this very, very clearly with how this is all coming together. People are using their skills in different ways to help everybody in the community really build something meaningful.
Yep.
On their individual level, and that actually builds the team cohesiveness as a group, as a community. And so,
just like you did with me, it was, I don't know how to send group emails. I'm never gonna know how to put things into whatever you did to make sure everyone got them, but you helped me with that. So now I don't need to learn all of that stuff because you helped me. So that it saves me time to where I can reach out to another person and another person and another person. And it's not just an acronym. SPARK is not just an acronym for speed, passion, attitude, reliability, and knowledge, which it is, but it's also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps. And this is in any business, in anything you are a leader of, is right now, I believe us to be on step 4. And that's step 4 is the transition. The middle step goes from support groups to friendships. Friendships build leadership. Leaders start this process their own way, and the world changes. So, yourself, one-on-one, group. Group, relationships, leaders.
You can apply this to podcasts, you can apply this to startups, you can apply it to so-called like boring businesses, right? Traditional kind of small businesses. Yeah. Anything like that. But you've got to start with yourself and knowing yourself. And that's something that you've showcased over and over again of how well you know yourself. And nobody can tell you differently because you know what works for you. You know how your brain works because you were gifted with the support,
very gifted,
and
yes.
Everything you needed. And so by understanding that and understanding like how lucky he was to have that, I think you did a great job of spreading that to the world and trying to give other people the support
just that little
you
boost
had.
Just that little boost, the little boost of like, hey, by the way, I think you're really good at this, or actually no, I don't think you are good at this, look at what you have done here, done there. But it started with the person making the decision like you to say, yes, I would like to be on a podcast. Then you get a little bit of momentum in yourself and you can start your own thing like this that then circles back. So again, the importance of, and I can't stress this enough, businesses, whatever, any aspect of life is yourself first. But if you can't do it, at least be willing to say yes to an opportunity that might help you do it. And I just felt like I was privileged enough to start this for people that maybe couldn't or didn't have the confidence and might not gain that without just a little bit of encouragement. And it's up to people like me, I think, to pay this shit back if we've got a lot going for us.
It is. And that's the thing. Like, it actually doesn't cost a lot of time and effort to pay it back.
Nope.
And to help people along. And so often, I think with society, we tend to focus too much on the individual and like the power of the individual. And that's great. But it always comes down to, if you want to do anything truly meaningful, you need a team. Mm-hmm. And you can't do anything without a team. And a team is made up of people. It's not made up of data. This goes back to kind of everything I've been talking about of like getting away from like these data-driven systems to human-driven systems, because the team is important. The people are important. Nothing else happens without the people. And I don't think that's really respected enough. And so when
100%.
I met Lobau, he only focused on the people. And I was only focused on the data. Turns out, I was a little off. I was close. I was getting that figured out. But until I saw the power of focusing on the people and what you could do by just giving people that little jolt of confidence, that little bit of support that they're not used to having, and seeing what that makes people capable of, it's fucking amazing.
It is, and it also gives you a sense of pride in yourself when you're able to provide that for someone else. So it's not just a, the other person, it helps me too. Like,
Yeah.
I love the fact that I could give someone or brighten someone's day, a jolt of energy at any time. I pride myself greatly on that. And again, going back to this thing, and I've never spoken about this, which is why I wanted to do this today, is yourself. It is so important to start. But those one-on-one personal conversations are the next step. One-on-one. You're comfortable with yourself. Now you're comfortable talking to one other person. That turns into a group, which turns into a team, which turns into a bunch of leaders. And it cycles back.
And just to kind of prove this out in like a different realm, that's exactly what I ended up doing, building out my AI co-founder. At first, I had it talking to one other person, the AI, right?
Yep.
But I realized that's actually not as helpful. What I want people to do is I want people to talk to themselves or think out loud. So the whole work at the speed of thought thing, the idea is for people to capture their thoughts and start being able to see patterns in those thoughts, be able to draw things from those, and use that to kind of just trigger actions, because it does start with yourself.
Lobau Spark has started a fundraising effort for Crisis Text Line. We have a goal of $19 per episode, as $19 supports just one person in their time of absolute crisis with their mental health. If you would like to donate to our fundraiser titled Lauren's Infinity, the link is listed in the episode's description. Lauren was my wife's best friend and loved by all who came into contact with her.
Because once you have a good, clear understanding of yourself, interacting with others becomes much, much easier.
Yep.
And this is exactly what I found. And I had to become way more comfortable with who I was before I was really able to start impacting others around me.
Yep.
But once I became that way, all of a sudden it changed. And like, I find people like looking up to me, and they're like, "Oh, well, you inspired me to do this." And it's like, I did?
Yeah.
Like, I'm just a guy who's like doing shit, right?
Right, exactly.
But over time, I kind of developed this bias for action because I realized how powerful it is for people to be able to see that action can be taken and going, oh, well, I can do that too. Like, that's actually not that hard. And
Right.
it's not. What is hard is maintaining it over time when you don't have the support you need and the people who believe in you, because that's what I was really missing in my life a few years ago. And this guy here, he was the first one who really believed in me to the point where he wouldn't let shit go.
Maybe
like-
forcefully, sorry.
That's what I needed. It was perfect.
Yeah.
And that was the thing. It really helped me get out of my preconceived notions of what I was capable of, what my brain would let me do, trying to figure out, ADHD, autism, all that shit. And you're just like, oh, just do stuff. You're fine. It's
Right.
You've got this. Like, you're way better than you realize.
Absolutely.
And by getting that level of confidence, suddenly I'm able to do things that to most people look like risks, but to me, I'm like, yeah, it'll work.
Yeah.
I'll figure it out. Like,
Yeah.
it'll be fine. And that's this whole trip in a nutshell. And it has paid off in more ways than I can even count. Nothing measurable yet, but I feel it. And the level of connection I've had with people on both legs, first the San Francisco leg and then the Florida leg.
Right.
It's a matter of just having the belief in like, no, I know what I'm doing. It's cool. It'll all work out. It's fine.
Right. I think it is
And then
measurable,
making
though.
it happen.
Yeah, right, which you did. But I think it is measurable right now. It's measurable, maybe not financially yet, but finances only come when you've gone through all of this work to get to a point where you can generate an income on something, on
Money's
something.
a lagging indicator.
Correct. And like, I'm so emotionally filled up by this. No amount of
Right.
fucking money in the world could replace what we have done, in my opinion. And that's what I would like. But keep in mind the first two things again, yourself and one-on-ones. One-on-ones are extremely, extremely important at first, I think. And the issue with that, though, is individual and one-on-ones are also the most difficult, because you don't go from one-on-ones to groups overnight. That takes a while to get comfortable talking to where you're like, you know what, maybe not one-on-one anymore, maybe 3, maybe 2, whatever you're comfortable with. 2 turns into 4, that turns into 6, etc., etc., etc. So you do that, and you gradually gain the confidence to be around groups of people. In mental health, a lot of people are not comfortable in large areas, where there's a bunch of people. this can help train you into being so confident to walk into a room and entertain people, or to do whatever you want to do, meet people. And
or to be active on social media. And that sounds weird.
No.
But one of the things I've really found with social media in particular is if you don't have a strong sense of who you are on social media, the social media you can consume will change you into the thing you're consuming.
Right.
And it happened to me. I saw it very clearly firsthand when I realized that my use of social media changed my behavior kind of very early on in this whole exploration. But once you have the idea of who you are as a person and you're comfortable communicating your ideas like one-on-one, that's actually the best way to communicate on social media, because you're focusing on like who you are and what you know, as opposed to trying to game the system to get the maximum number of followers for whatever reason, because that's meaningless. Yeah. Real human connection is meaningful. And when you start with meaningful, you can then scale meaningful. If you scale meaningless to start, it's actually much harder to come back and make that meaningful, because it doesn't have any meaning to begin with. There's nothing holding that group together that's anything tangible, other than the fact that you've managed to manipulate people's brains into clicking follow, but that doesn't make them care. You might get them in that short term, but you won't get them long term. When you care about people and you're checking in on them and you're making sure that they have the confidence to do what they need, guess what? That connection will be there.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter on what social media platform or whatever. Like, that's all meaningless. The connection stays, and people will figure out the technology to make those connections easier, but they're going to focus on those connections first. So if you start with meaning, you can scale that up way easier than trying to do the opposite.
It's time once again to recognize the biggest supporters of this podcast. Lobau Spark is proudly supported by Leo Guinan, Kirk Hofstrom, Casey Elliott, Sarah Delano, Justin Allingham, Blushing Crafter, Jamie Young, and Beth Jones. It is now also supported by 13 anonymous supporters. And I understand that, because I can curse and all that kind of shit. I get it. If you want to support this podcast anonymously, you are free to do so. It's totally fine. But this does not exist without you. And I love you. And I think you can see where this is going. So not even you know this yet. He's one of my best friends. That there is a chapter 2 of the Spark strategy. And that's kind of what I'm sharing with you now.
Worldwide exclusive, folks. You're here to hear first.
Speed, individual. Being fast is an individual characteristic. Passion is checking in on people one-on-one all the time. Attitude is getting groups together that help each other, but they're not teams yet. Reliability is being reliable to a team of people, and each relies on the next that relies on the next. Knowledge is where you're a true leader. You build leaders if you're the leader.
So knowledge is interesting, because if you've followed my other stuff, the way kind of intelligence works, it's a trait of networks, not individuals. And so a good leader knows how to give their team the space. I don't want to say just his, but in Lobau's case, his, he gives his team the confidence to perform and share knowledge as needed without worrying about how that could affect their individual thing, because they know you care about them. And so you are able to make sure that information is, going where it needs to go and getting to where it needs to go exactly when it needs to be there. And so knowledge is a function of the team, and it's being able to communicate effectively. And when you start with the people, the communication becomes easier.
Exactly, and that's the whole thing. And yes, there do need to be leaders within those teams at first. And that's kind of where we are, I think, a little bit right now. Is yes, I do consider myself the leader of this team right now. However, we're very close to where we've built a team of individual leaders that can now go out and do the same thing for other people. Because you have a bunch of leaders that are also friends. That is where you cannot fail. You literally can't. And that's because each person can rely on the next to help them with what they're doing individually for someone else that is starting fast. If they can't start fast, you give them a jolt. And then they go through that process, and then they become leaders. We can have a world of leaders, a world of them. That's the only way to solve the human crisis right now.
Absolutely.
It's
totally
the
is.
only way, in my opinion.
Yeah, because leadership...
No amount of gifting or giving or all that is ever going to work. You have to give a shit about that individual at first, or nothing ever works for the long haul.
It's amazing how the best leaders, if you look, they always have a trail of leaders behind them. You look at this in sports. The best coaches have a coaching tree.
Yep.
People they've trained that are coming up and being elite. The best leaders make other people leaders, because
100%.
that's how all of it scales. Like, when you start scaling your leadership and give everybody the ability to be a leader in whatever realm they're comfortable in, but not make it to where everybody has to be the leader all the time.
Right.
Suddenly, like, someone's taking the lead and other people can come in to provide support and be a teammate.
100%.
You don't always have to be a leader, and you don't always have to be like an individual contributor. It's a very fluid thing.
Exactly.
And when teams can really shift those roles as needed, suddenly you've got a team that becomes incredibly powerful and way more efficient longer term. And you kind of see this with, like, you know, they've got the team dynamics of, like, forming, norming, storming, performing, right? In terms of, I don't know if you've heard that one.
I have not, but I like it.
Okay, so that's one that goes around the tech circles. So basically, like, you form the team,
right,
and then the team kind of gets to know each other. They start building up the relationships and kind of figuring out the norms of the team, right? How that team works. And then all of a sudden, you know, that starts, like, accelerating. You get this storming thing where it's, you know, getting great, and then all of a sudden you've got a high-performing team,
right?
Because it's a team that knows and trusts each other. Information flows freely, and you've got a team that can really make sure that everybody on the team is able to achieve whatever they need to achieve.
And that's also, I do want to say that this has worked in my personal life with groups of friends also. I mean, I didn't just start all of this because, like, I didn't know that it would ultimately work.
Can confirm, this guy has more friends than I've ever met, and all of them will throw themselves on a sword for this guy in a heartbeat as needed.
It's because I'll do the same thing for them.
Right.
That's the whole, that's when you have a team of leaders. We take one trip a year, just our high school friends get together, update each other on our lives and all that. And each person runs the trip a different year. I ran it the first year. I haven't run it since. Because each person takes pride in their trip of where we go and get together. So then everyone's excited every year as to who the next person's going to be. Oh, I bet they're going to pick this place. This is going to be fun, you know. And that camaraderie keeps you talking throughout the year, so you don't lose touch with people. So like this works in friendships, it works in business, it works in life. It just does. Like it works. But
it does work.
You know, I'm not famous or anything like that.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I think I am. I do. I am famous. Take that for what you will. I am a very famous person because I'm confident in myself, in my abilities.
Hey,
yeah, and so are you, by the way.
Well, I mean, to give you some, like, credit there, though, like, you're over 1 million views on TikTok now. Which,
yeah.
Well, those, like,
that was kind of shocking.
But it's one of those things, like, I don't think that you should focus on the numbers like that.
No.
But you can use those as a proxy for your impact. And at least an understanding of the type of impact you're having on the world. And when you start seeing that, like, you realize, like, there are a lot of fucking people out there who have seen your face and listened to what you say.
Right.
That's such an incredible power.
Yeah.
Like, and you know, you think of famous, like, oh, everybody knows. Well, okay, but it's more like people outside of your circle know who you are. And you know, so people can get to see you in different ways. And, you know, a lot of times with fame, it ends up being like, oh, you're this, like, super big celebrity, and then you, like, can't lead a normal life. And I don't think that's actually necessary for, like, a lot of levels of, like, fame. But I think there's a very valuable amount of fame where people see your impact outside of your immediate circle, so that they could start seeing how to impact their immediate circles.
Right.
And that's where it gets really interesting with some of the stuff like social media, because the downstream impacts you're not going to be able to necessarily measure. But if you inspire someone to be a leader in their own life, and then all of a sudden they make the world a better place around them, you can't make that connection directly. But when you start seeing things like 1 million views, it's like, there's a pretty good chance it happened in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Like, I would take that bet.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and
a lot of the people I've had one-on-one have been from TikTok.
Yeah.
That I just reached out, just like on Twitter, and said, would you like to be on a podcast? Which is, and when you have the confidence in yourself, again, you have the confidence to reach out like that, and it never stops. You never stop going after that person that you think you might be able to help, that you share something with, because who knows what they're going through. And the difference is, like, you could use this strategy in a business, and yes, it would work until there's one difference. The one difference is because all that bullshit that businesses do, yeah, you could take this and manipulate it into something where it would work, but it wouldn't sustain itself, because it takes a bunch of leaders reaching out to individuals to become more powerful people. And if you don't care about that person and the success they're going to have, it'll fizzle out. It's the only way to maintain it.
Yeah, I think that's something important there too, where as a leader, you need to set aside your own success in favor of the success of others. Because as a leader, you're only successful if your team is successful. And in a world that, again, focuses on the individual, we have a lot of leaders who focus on being leaders for their own benefit and showcasing how much of a leader they are, and, going on Twitter and writing about thought leadership, and I'm going to be a thought leader, and I'm just going to... And really all that is it's having the confidence to share your ideas, and that doesn't make your ideas good. And in fact, if you're just trying to grow an audience for, like, the potential financial benefit, your thoughts probably aren't going to be that good and not particularly worthy of leading people, but you'll probably still get views.
Right.
It just won't actually be very successful for you down the line, because it's the performance of leadership over the actual leadership, and that's something that I think the world has a problem with.
Yep.
But you see guys like this actually, like, putting in the work and being a solid leader, and when you see his team and how they react to him, which I've had the pleasure of doing lately, it's absolutely incredible, because he cares so much that his team cares about him, and they make him look good.
Yep. Because I cannot do it without y'all. I can just tell you right now.
I mean, again, we've talked. You're not any good with technology at all, but you lead a team of people who run all the technology.
Right.
But you don't need to know that, because all you need to know is the people and understand what they need to be successful.
Yep.
And that makes them successful, which makes you successful.
Right. And you know what? I don't think I've had a single student employee that doesn't end up as the leader of some other thing in their field. So that's, again, that instilled confidence in me to start this also. It's like, this has worked with friends. This has worked in my business. I'm going to go online now, and I'll figure out just enough bullshit technology stuff, just enough
that much
to start, this process. And because my goal is, I would like to change the world, but I can't change the world without other leaders around me changing other people's lives too. And so that's what it has to be like that. And the most difficult part for a leader, though, is when someone gets to a level where they are equal in terms of their characteristics in leadership. You turn them the fuck loose and let them do everything their way, because you trust those people to do it.
That's a fade out. I don't know if we can.
Oh no, I've got a better fade out.
Okay.
Come on, you got to admit that was pretty funny. But no, honestly, we might use that one. We'll see. But the whole strategy and process, this is an announcement for me. It is like, y'all never knew that there is a part 2 to this.
I knew it was. I didn't know what it was.
Right.
I just assumed.
There's a part 2. There's also a part 3.
Probably part 47 as well.
Well, and that's the other thing, is part 3 is everyone writes their own strategies of how they made it. But I will never lose touch with any of y'all because it's the way it is, and y'all are going to be so much more successful once that stuff happens. You're already helping another person in the group, a lot of people in the group actually, on stuff that I could never do. But we wouldn't be here unless you and I connected one-on-one at first. One-on-one groups.
And it started
Teams,
with the confidence
leadership.
to reach out. And the confidence for me to, like, again, talk about it. That was, I was talking about that, my experience. And that showed him that, this is someone I want to reach out to.
Yep.
And so by being willing to share those thoughts and experiences you have online, the individual connections become so much more powerful because, again, you're sharing who you truly are, not sharing what you think will get you the most clicks.
Right.
You might get the clicks, great, but you're not really going to be changing the world most likely. It's going to be way harder. Whereas, like, when you talk one-on-one with someone, you get to see that impact firsthand.
Exactly.
You get to see in people's eyes when they light up and they start making connections that they didn't make before. They start realizing what they can become capable of that they never thought possible.
Yep.
And that level of confidence that you instill in people is just absolutely incredible. And I speak firsthand because you did it to me, and I was not confident. I was this weird, like, confidently unconfident
I think you were
person.
in the middle. You were in the middle. Like,
I was trying.
You knew what you could do. You were just looking for it at the wrong places when having someone come along and say, "Oh, and by the way, are you kidding me? Like, look at this. Realistically, look at what you're doing. Look at what you have done." Because we dwell too much on what we haven't done,
Yeah.
not what we have. And you build someone up to say, "Oh, well, shit, I have done this. That was really difficult, and I did it. Speed, passion, one-on-one, attitude, group, reliability, team, knowledge, leadership."
This guy's brilliant right here, folks.
Thank you so much, Leo. I appreciate it. No one's ever told me that before.
You'll see when you put someone in a system that works for the person, they become brilliant because it's what they know, it's what they do, and the proof is out there if you're actually willing to look. Most people don't bother looking.
Right.
And so much talent and everything just goes unnoticed, unrecognized, because we don't have a society that enables people to care nearly deeply enough. And that's something that we both want to change. We want to get people caring about the people in these systems and focusing on helping them become the best possible version of themselves for what they want out of life.
Yeah.
Because that's where the magic happens.
Exactly.
And it's unbelievable how much different it is when you get to live the life that truly feels aligned with your values and your passions, because everything just it goes on easy mode. Nothing becomes challenging. You have the confidence and the belief in yourself to make shit happen.
Right. One last thing I'll bring up is the caring. Obviously, you have to care for all of that. But people, 90% of the world they won't become leaders because they don't care. But it's not their fault that they don't care. That's right. The whole thing. It's not their fault. Like, if you say, "Hey, by the way, I would like you to do this," or whatever it is, whatever job it is, if they don't care about that job, they're going to just half-ass it. Mm-hmm. Or if they don't care about the person that is asking them to do something, they're going to half-ass it. And the majority of the world doesn't ever truly believe that they can be leaders. I'm going to show them they can. And if you know that you can be a really successful leader, you will care about everything you do. And that's literally how it is. That's where care comes in, is people don't think that by caring, it's going to matter.
But it does. It makes all the difference.
But you see what I'm saying on that? Like, if they don't feel like caring is going to matter,
right, and in most cases,
they don't care.
It doesn't change the equation.
Right.
They're not being paid enough to care.
But also, it is that fact that, like, if you feel like you just, I mean, how many times in the world do we hear, oh, I just don't care about that. I don't care about this. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. Everyone has that in their brain. Why? Because they truly feel that if they put in the effort to care, that it doesn't pay off. And that they will never be leaders of their own thing that helps people care. Because I guarantee you, if someone could give the feeling that I have from doing this, if I could just magically just give that person the feeling of the emotion that goes into this, they would want to feel like I do every minute of every single day.
Well, you
and
did, and I did.
Right,
so
right.
I
Well,
did.
that's it. Right, right. Exactly, and that's where we need more. And it's, again, we're about halfway there, but we are very close. No, so it's all good.
Thank you for watching. We will see you in the next video. Go check out his channel, Lobau Spark.
Now we're gonna go jump in the lake.
Yeah, let's go ahead and play. And we'll see you next
y'all.
time.
Yep.